warm welcome to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Simon Baxter and I'm a full-time woodland photographer, and I've been passionate about printing my photographs since before this channel even started back in 2016. To be fair, most of my subscribers are probably here for my dog Meg. Here she is. Come Meg. I say a dog, I think she's more of a person in a bear costume. But yes, it's always good to see the Meg fans in the comment section. Right, so some of you might remember that my previous videos using the Canon Pro-1000 A2 printer. Well, unfortunately, earlier this year, the printhead died. And couple that with multiple springs that had broken on the cartridge mounts, I realised that it was time for a replacement. So in January, I took delivery of my new Canon Pro-2600. This thing is a beast. 156 kilogram packaged weight, 24-inch roll paper, 12 huge ink cartridges, and 4 people to carry it upstairs into my office. Some of you might remember that I had a printer almost identical to this a few years back, the Pro-2100. I ended up selling that one as I wasn't really using it as much as I'd hoped. So why have I bought the new version of it? I'm going to explain all that, as well as look at why I think printing is important, how I print my images, pros and cons of printing at home, discuss some alternative printing options, and just take a general look at important things for you to consider. When my Canon Pro-1000 broke, I was essentially printerless, and with an order to fulfill, the panic was on. I thought to myself, can I really justify getting a large format printer again, or should I get the Canon Pro-1100 despite some of the issues that I had with the Pro-1000? Or do I look at printers from other manufacturers? But I've been so used to Canon for so many years. And then I realised that Canon were running a promotional offer whereby if you already own one of their printers, you could get a good discount if you upgrade to large format. A website called DPSB quoted me an excellent price, which was kind of difficult to refuse when the Pro-1100 is £1,100 and this new printer is probably twice the price of that, but for more than twice the printer. Now, I'm far from swimming in money, so this wasn't purchased on a whim. So some financial return is going to be a big help. But I figured that if this investment pushes me to make more prints, then I get better use out of my magnetic wall, my plan chest, and it motivates me to try and make more of print sales to help fund things such as ink tanks, paper, experimentation, learning, and sharing my experiences through videos such as this. Now, we'll talk a little bit more about costs shortly, but let's get this beast fired up and make a print. Oh dear, these 160mm cartridges are already running low. Ah. I'm not going to get too bogged down in the details and technicalities of printing because I've discussed some of it before in previous videos, so I'll link to a playlist in the description below. But it's worth reiterating that before you even attempt to make a print, you must ensure that your monitor is calibrated. Again, I've talked about the calibration process before using a measuring device such as this one from Datacolor. But today I want to discuss another very important consideration through the calibration and editing process, and that's colour space. One of the key marketing points of monitors such as these very nice ones from BenQ is that they cover 99% of the Adobe RGB colour space. So slightly naively, I used to always set my monitors and workspace to Adobe RGB because, well, why wouldn't you want more colour? But the truth is that my printer, although fantastic, isn't capable of printing all the colours I can theoretically see on my monitor. I say theoretically because the colours that are beyond the capabilities of my printer are very highly saturated colours, particularly in green and blue, which I'm probably never going to see in any of my photographs anywhere. Of course, there might be some very rare exceptions, and you've got to be careful of colours in the shadows not going mushy. but typically speaking, my work sits very comfortably within the sRGB workspace. Couple that with the fact that most people see my work online, i.e. in sRGB, I can maintain a more consistent and predictable workflow across different mediums if I work, print and publish in sRGB. Also consider that when I create a litho printed book, such as this, Gathering Time, then everything is converted to an even smaller colour space of CMYK. And in my experience, every time I've converted either an Adobe RGB or an sRGB image to CMYK, I don't see any difference on my monitor. Because even though I can see 99% of Adobe RGB on here, my work sits within a much smaller gamut 99% of the time. It's a bit like megapixels on a camera. It might look good on paper, pardon the pun, but in practice might not actually make any difference. For now, the simplicity of sRGB just works well for me, but as with everything, just find out what works for you. Your style of photography might benefit from those extra saturated colours. But if you've been fighting with Adobe RGB and your prints aren't matching what you see on screen, then perhaps try an sRGB workflow and just see if it makes any difference. So your monitor is calibrated and you're working in your preferred colour space. Now you need some profiles for your paper of choice. Now I have discussed this in a previous video, but it's worth repeating how important this step is. Now most paper manufacturers will offer some generic profiles, ICC profiles, which you can download from their website, but if you're a perfectionist like me, your results will be far more accurate if you get some custom profiles made. Now I use PhotoSpeed papers. These are A2 cut sheets, but in the printer is a roll of platinum cotton 305. PhotoSpeed do offer a free profiling service. Go to their website, download a profiling pack, follow the instructions, and you'll end up with a colour swatch that you send to them in the post. A few days later, you'll receive your custom ICC profiles via your email. Simple to install and you're ready to go. So this is the image I'm going to print today. I've always been very fond of this image. I published it again on Instagram and Facebook recently. It was in Gathering Time and the Woodland Sanctuary exhibition. I'm really happy with the composition, the colour, atmosphere, and what it translates in terms of my experience of the woods. Before I go ahead and make the print, it's worth noting that a lot of people print directly from Lightroom. I tried that years ago, but the results were frustratingly inaccurate. I tried from Photoshop and everything was perfect. I've never looked back and I've never bothered to find out why, to be honest. I mean really, because of profiling it shouldn't make any difference, but I've converted a few people to Photoshop since and they've had better results too. You know, what do you print from and why? You know, perhaps we can get to the bottom of this in the comments section. You know, please let me know. Okay, so I'm not going to go crazy on the print size. I think widthways on 24-inch paper, leaving a 1-inch border is going to look really good. So let's just go ahead and hit print because it's ready to go. There we go. Ta-da! Here we go, the finished print. And I'm very pleased to say that is a good match to what I see on screen. 22 inches wide, a slightly bigger border on the bottom to allow room for signing, and a good border all around just to make it easier to mount, and then this will eventually be framed and go on the wall downstairs. Now you can of course order a copy of that yourself through my website, but you know, this channel, it's not crammed with adverts. I don't have sponsors, so if you just indulge me for a moment, I just want to promote one of my new products which is now available to pre-order. For example, That image is available as a small print, which comes as a brand new limited edition box set. Also available is a very limited collector's edition box set, and both these have been launched alongside my brand new zine. This has been a long time coming. I've been dragging my heels on a few things, but I'm very, very pleased to say that it is now available to pre-order. Oak consists of 40 beautiful images. All of them were made in my local woodlands, all of oak trees and oak scenes. And then amongst the images is some very thoughtful narrative. This is just a test copy, but you can now pre-order it through my website. And to be honest, it's 52 pages. It's more or less a book, so at £15 it is an absolute bargain, and it's limited to only 500 copies. All pre-orders will be signed, so if that's of interest, please take a look as soon as you can. As for the box sets, there's a limited edition one, which is limited to 50 copies, and it includes 8 12x10 prints. Now this image did appear in Gathering Time and Woodland Sanctuary, but isn't in the zine. I've included this in the box set just as a bonus, really, because I really like it and I enjoy sharing it. And then there's also the collector's edition box set, which is the same 8 prints, but they're in A3 size, in a beautiful presentation folder and a personalised covering letter. That's limited to only 5 copies, and one of those is already spoken for. So there's only 4 left. So if that's of interest, please take a look. It's just a great way to, slowly peruse the images, or if you get the bigger box set, you can easily take those out of the folder and frame them and put them on your wall, however you want to enjoy the work. But either way, whether it's a box set or a zine, it's just a fantastic way to support my work, support this channel, and just help me keep moving forward. So yeah, please take a look. It is very much appreciated. Okay, so let's look at some of the pitfalls of printing from home. The first obvious one is cost. Yes, you don't have to buy a printer as big as and expensive as this one, but just to give you an idea, this was £2,160, including VAT, which, to be fair, is a very good price for that printer. A roll of paper, almost £200. A full set of inks, which I've just had to buy, almost £1,000. Maintenance cartridges, probably around about £65 each. It's a huge amount of money. And I've probably sold around about £3,000 worth of prints so far this year, which is great. But it also means that I'm still running at a loss, so I do need to up my print game. That being said, I don't really spend much money on kit. I honestly couldn't care less about the latest iteration of a camera that I already own. And I think if possible, printing should be treated as an investment in your photography. I'd much rather sacrifice a couple of lenses that I don't really need if it means I can enjoy and improve my print work and let that learning loop back so that I can fine-tune my eye for detail when in the field. Then there's the learning curve, which for some is going to be steeper than it is for others. All I can say is take your time. There is no rush and there's nothing instant about printing. Just make sure you get your software and hardware set up correctly through calibration and profiling. Get that right, and then you can just concentrate on editing your images for print and then making changes in response to the prints that you make. Yes, you're going to use some ink, some paper, lots of time, and perhaps a little bit of frustration along the way. But exactly the same as making photographs, a failed print is not a waste, it's just another step towards success. And then there's the need to use the printer on a regular basis. Particularly a beast like this is designed to be used, every day if possible. It certainly has to be used quite frequently. I spoke to a Canon engineer once and he said to me, look, if you're not going to use this in one particular week, at least print a nozzle check pattern. It's an A4 piece of paper, it costs a few pence, and your printer health will really thank you for it because it just keeps it moving, keeps the ink flowing, and then just helps to stop the print head developing a lot of problems. So do consider that. Then there's also the physical space. A lot of people, they don't have a lot of room. I've managed to arrange this office. I'm fortunate to have a reasonable office space, and I've arranged it in such a way that that printer isn't too imposing. But it is something to consider. That being said, you can get some very nice A3 size printers, which are still a decent unit, but will produce superb quality prints. But it's not just a printer, you also need to consider the storage of paper and prints. That's why I got that plan chest. Prior to that though, you might hit the same problem that I had, where prints and boxes were stacked everywhere and it's a mess. So yeah, just make sure that you've got the room to not only store things, but just keep your workspace clear so that it's efficient and effective. So why do I love printing at home? Well, in all honesty, I find sending images to a lab to be a bit of a hassle. There's the time delay, there's less paper choice, there's less flexibility, less room for experimentation. And the quality at home can be, and in my experience, is better. And that's probably down to the paper choices that you have and the time that you can take in just getting things absolutely spot on. It's tactile, it's creatively satisfying, it's the realization and reimagination of a unique moment in time that, frankly, deserves to live on in physical form rather than the injustice of low resolution and soulless sharing on social media. I know a lot of people don't have much room, but if you can dedicate one wall to prints, even if it's just a small one, then that will make all the difference. I've not utilised this whole wall yet, but I love what I have. Its benefits are threefold. Firstly, it looks great. It really lifts the space with colour, variation and interest. Secondly, living with the prints allows me to respond to them, identify improvements that can be made either with the print itself or how I've created the photograph. And also just as important is that seeing my work on the wall just lifts my spirits. It reminds me of everything that is good about being a photographer that loves trees and dogs, of course. Perusing a Lightroom catalogue is all well and good, but it's not a patch on something that is tangible, that feels real and is more absorbing, and your eyes will thank you for it too. I'm a bit of a stickler for detail as well, and printing heightens your appreciation for detail. It's all well and good pixel peeping on a 5K monitor and getting all excited about your 100 megapixels of resolution and its cropping ability, but that's nothing compared to seeing that detail come to life as something that you want to reach out and touch. And you won't waste those pixels either, but preserve them through careful framing in the field as you become more mindful of how what you're witnessing can be reimagined as a print. Yes, it might be frustrating at first, costly in the process, but I think it's best to look at printing as part and parcel of your love of photography, not as a separate endeavour. If funds and space allow, then do not hesitate. However, let's just finish off by looking at some alternatives. This is a proof copy of my zine. It's 52 pages, digitally printed on uncoated stock, and it cost £8.50 plus postage. It's crazy cheap for a one-off copy. So if you don't want to dip your toe in home printing yet, then this is an affordable way to at least get you thinking about curation, presentation, papers, and your work as a whole. I mentioned some of the pitfalls of using a lab, but it can be a really good option for the occasional print here and there. It really just depends upon how precious you are about the end result, and if you like to constantly tweak like I do to achieve some sort of notion of what you think perfection is. But I think if outsourcing is your only option, then try to build a good working relationship with a reputable lab. Ideally somewhere that you can go in person and see and touch all the different paper options and see what might work best with your particular style of photography. And they might help with the profiling as well, so that your results start to become more accurate. But if you like to produce lots of prints and you kind of get the bug and you're constantly tweaking, then it is going to get quite expensive in the long run. Ultimately, it's down to money, space, and your own priorities in the creative process. All I can do is talk passionately about printing, and it will chime with some of you, others not so much, and some which just aren't quite ready yet. It's a bit like gardening. You do it for the joy of it, for the joy of the process, and to appreciate the fruits of your labour. You move things that don't quite grow right, you do planting combinations for coloured contrast and to build up layers, and depth. It's a responsive and iterative process, but it's something that's real and you get to enjoy it on a daily basis. I sit back, relax, admire and learn from my prints every day because other than talking about it, it's as close as I can get to expressing my love for woodland, more than a digital file ever could. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please leave a comment and share it with your friends if you did. And don't forget to get your pre-order in for the zine and to check out my box sets. Very much appreciated. And I'll hopefully see you soon back outside on location. But thanks for watching and I'll see you soon.